Good evening. Today is March 19, 2019. Our thought for today, where there is no vision, there is no hope. That's George Washington Carver. I'm going to go ahead and officially call the meeting to order today. Our pastor could not make it today, so I'm going to ask Commissioner Henderson. He's always in a prayer mood. If he would tonight to lead us in our prayer tonight, then we're going to ask Commissioner Cowan if he would lead us in our pledge tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With everyone bow their heads. Dear Father, once again, we come before thee with thanksgiving in our hearts. We come to just to say thank you, because we know that you are truly a good God, my Father, one whom sits up high and look down low. You know what our needs are before we know what they are ourselves. And we just come before you with thanksgiving in our hearts, just to say thank you. And may you lead and guide this commission in the way that you would have us to go. This we pray. In our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Commissioners, I have a couple of changes on the agenda, please. If down at number 8, old business, I want to take chairman's privilege tonight to remove that. And also on the consent agenda, I want to remove item G off the consent agenda. Those are all the changes that I have tonight. I seek a motion that we approve the agenda. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? All in favor? Pass 5-0. Next on the agenda is citizen comments. This is an opportunity that we allow our citizens to come up and talk about agenda topic only. You may come at this time, please. You got 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and your address for the record. Agenda topics only. Agenda topics only. You may come at this time. Anything that's on the agenda, you got 3 minutes to talk about it. You may come at this time. Thank you. Next is our chairman's report. First, I want to do our family fun day. Not ready for it? No.
We are having some projector
Okay, that's
troubles
okay.
at the moment.
That's okay. Well, let me go on to we got some special guests in the audience tonight. We got the Elite Aces, 13 and under baseball team. From all the kids are from Newton County. They just won the ATL Super Summer National Invitational Tournament and will be traveling to Panama Beach in July for the World Series. So we got some champions here, and they getting ready to go represent Newton County in the World Series. Guys, if you would come up, please. They have their coaches with them tonight. Arsenio Nolly, Coach Gabe White, Coach James Combs, and Coach Gino Brown. Yeah, come on up. Come on up here. Yeah, there you go. They got their rings on, and they said they want to get a picture with the commissioners tonight. So guys, we're gonna allow Coach Nolly to say a couple of words, and then we'll come out there and we'll get a picture with you guys.
Thank you for putting me on the spot, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I've been dealing with these few kids for a while now, and it's been a privilege to coach them. We recently, most of these kids went down to Gulfport a couple of years ago and won the World Series. Not only are these boys good athletes, they're also great students. And I want them to know that I appreciate the hard work they put forth and representing this county.
Thank you, sir. Well, we want to also tell you guys that that we appreciate you guys, all the hard work that you put in, then going out and represent Newton County well. But not only Newton County, represent your mom and your dad well. So we're happy for you guys, and we want to cheer y'all on. Yeah, that's y'all up there. They celebrating, and they got their championship ring on to prove it. So we want to come out, the commissioners, if you will. We're going to go out here and take a picture with them. And we want to cheer them on today. World Series win. Y'all, we showing our ring? Our ring? Congratulations. 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 I know when I know I was in the audience when Chairman Ellis was chairman, and then he had some kids going to the World Series, and they took one of the hats off and they passed the hat. So I don't know if y'all want to pass the hat or not, but I will give you a donation. I would love to give you guys a donation. And well, you got $5, so pass that. Yeah, pass the hat. Let's pass the hat. Let's pass the hat. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people don't have their BFO, but I know how to get in touch with you guys, and so we'll try to get you all a donation. But guys, good luck to y'all. Y'all go represent Newton County well, and y'all bring that victory back home. Yeah. Yeah. Ready? Also, we just celebrated our second annual Family Fun Day, which was a great success, a great turnout, and we had a great time. The community had an opportunity to come together and talk to some of the elected officials, and the kids had an opportunity to play and enjoy themselves. And all of this took place with no tax dollars, so it was a great day, for Newton County as we try to push one Newton throughout this community. And we got a video and I think some pictures that we would like to share with you guys. That was great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Brian. Um, we had an awesome time, and you know, we thank the community for coming out. That was I had an awesome time with it, being able to talk to different citizens in the community. But we had something special that happened. Um, me and there you go. Me and the mayor was walking, talking to people, and I asked the mayor. I said, Mayor, it would be great if we can get Matt Cooper to come out and be a part of this. And you know what? 30 minutes later, Matt Cooper was driving up to the stage. They was driving him up to the stage, and he was able to be a part of that. And he actually will pull some of the tickets out. And it just was a great community event. So we want to keep pushing one Newton. I think everybody had a good time. I think it was good for the community. I think it was good for our employees. So we're proud of that. And here's some pictures also that Mr. Fazio have. And it was a totally free event to the community. The community didn't have to pay for anything. Um, Everything was free for them. Yep. As we'll go with some of the commissioners, I think. I can't hardly see on my side, but we had the commissioners to come out, and it was just a good event. We did. We did. We had a lot of local talent that came out that signed up this year that was a part of it. A lot of local dance studios. Um, a lot of the vendors was from Newton County. So we had a lot of. I think we had about 70 vendors that actually participated. Um, and so we are definitely excited about next year, 2020. But that's all I have in the chairman's report, Mr. County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, I'd like to ask Cindy Wyman, our Animal Control Director, to come up onto the dais up here for a minute. I wanted to let everybody know that Cindy's been our Animal Control Director here for for right around a year at this point. She's done a tremendous job of moving our shelter towards rescuing more animals. You'll hear with my reports the number of animals, pardon me, that she has been instrumental in placing and in getting into the hands of rescue organizations, as well as having adopted. She's also very active in the organizations within her profession. Among those is the Georgia Animal Care and Control Association. She was just recently reelected as the president of that association, and she was honored. Their association met a couple of weekends ago in Tifton, and she was honored, and you'll see there being honored by the mayor of Tifton with a Lifetime Achievement Award for all of her activities dealing with in the animal control arena and with pets, and just doing a great job in that arena. So I've asked Cindy maybe to come up and just tell us a little bit about the organization and some of the work that you all have been doing. And this is an opportunity for us to recognize you and recognize what a benefit you are to the county and how proud we are to have you as an employee. And just to let everybody know, these are the types of employees that we are trying to attract all the time, and that we have some great folks would not only do good things in our community, but do good things statewide. So anyway, so thank you. I think congratulations.
Thank you. I'm just
Thank
kind
you.
of surprised. And thank you, Lloyd, for the compliment. The Georgia Animal Control Association has been around for approximately 45 years. Their Lifetime Achievement Award requires that you have been an animal control professional for a minimum of 20 years, which I'm dating myself, but I've made that. I was actually nominated by the board since I served 12 years as their secretary treasurer, 2 years as vice president. I was just reelected for my third term as president. The Georgia Animal Care and Control Association is dedicated to training and offering support to animal control agencies across the state, as well as serving as legislative. This past year, I was named to the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia to advise them on any legislation that would affect animal control agencies and the governments that we work for. So it's not only just for the animal welfare, but it's also protecting the budgets against possibly expenses that would affect the local governments on animal care and control issues. We also offer support in as many of you have probably heard, the large-scale puppy mills that have been where owners have been arrested. I personally attended the one in Montgomery County where there was over 100 German Shepherds, and I assisted there. And then the most recent one, Berrien County, I've offered my assistance along with an attorney and another, the secretary of the Georgia Animal Control Association. We're working with the sheriff so that they can successfully prosecute that case. A few other things I'm involved with. I'm actually on the board of the National Animal Care and Control Association. I've been on that board since 2011. I serve on their finance, legislative, and disaster committees. That's one of the other things that Georgia Animal Control Association does is we are involved with the DFS 11, which is agriculture disasters. And I work very closely with our state partners in that. But mostly, thank you for acknowledging this. It means a lot.
Thank you. Come on.
Thank you. Many of you probably saw the dog that was with Cindy at the Family Fun Day. That dog is a Newfoundland that was a rescue. Just recently, fairly recently, that dog had been in a puppy mill where there were 115 dogs. And so that dog was rescued, and it was the dog has a wonderful disposition. The kids were sitting on it and pulling at it and everything, and the dog just laid there. So wonderful, wonderful things. But so if we can go ahead to the slides, please. Next slide. This slide you're looking at here indicates what our current employee population is. We've had 7 new hires and 3 separations over the last month. The total number of regular and full-time employees is full-time and part-time employees is at 600, currently at 650. The next slide is a recap of the permits that we had issued year to date, and you'll see that we are still issuing quite a few residential permits. We have had some commercial permits as well. And the next slide then is a comparison from March 18 to March 19 year to date. And you'll see that or rather for the month rather, and we have fallen a little behind last year. Things are a little flat. However, we still are continuing to write quite a number of permits. And so you'll see there that recap of all of those numbers together. You'll see primary residential at 99 and commercial at 2. Work orders for the districts: District 1, 119, District 2, 30, District 3, 50, District 4, 30, and District 5, 81. These were the work orders that were processed and completed by our Public Works crews. And you'll note on here that we did complete a culvert replacement on Old Post Road. Now, this was one of the culverts that had been damaged during the storm a while back, and we were able to utilize FEMA money in order to replace that culvert. We have prepared the roadbed on Pickett's Bridge Road for TST, which is triple surface treatment. This is not exactly asphalt, but it is a tar and gravel chip mix that makes a very good, hard, drivable surface, much better than a gravel surface. And then we've begun to do some additional repair work from the 2018 LMIG list over in the silos of Ellington. Next slide, please. You'll see again the picture of Cindy Wyman being honored. An announcement here, the College and Career Academy at the Newton County Career Academy should be tomorrow from 10:30 to 1:30, and our Human Relations Department will be there representing the county, and hopefully we'll find some good future employees there. Next item was on the Newton County Family Fun Day. There's a few stats here that we had. We had 100 volunteers, and I wanted to say as well, echo what the chairman has said, and to thank each and every one of the volunteers, and also in particular the county employees that gave up their time. We had some folks that were there at 6 o'clock in the morning and were there till we finished cleaning up at 4:30 or 5. So I really do appreciate that level of community spirit and that engagement. We had 70 vendors, 5 acts, and it looked like we had at this point we can calculate about 3,500, but we do believe we had more than that there, and we had free food for everybody. And I also wanted to mention to the board that there will be an employee appreciation lunch on Friday. Certainly would love to see all of you there. We'll have the cookout, if you will, over at Turner Lake Park over there in that grass area between the community room and the gymnasium. So that is all I had at this time, and so that concludes my report for tonight, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry?
No tax dollars.
Oh, that's right. No tax dollars were spent on the Family Fun Day. All of the giveaways, we gave away quite a number of televisions, and we gave away Keurigs and so forth, but all of that, all of the food was all donated. All of the money to purchase all of that was donated by sponsors, or the gifts were donated by the vendors themselves. So, and it was a great time. We had 11 televisions, I believe, is what we were able to do, and we had all the free Coke and cotton candy and popcorn and everything that everybody could eat. So, and we are looking forward to another great year next year. So hopefully we'll have even a larger crowd, and encourage everybody to come. And thank you to all of those of you who contributed to this, as well as to those of you who came and participated in the event.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. A quick question. You got 1 minute.
Can we get a copy of your report? And
Yes, ma'am.
we don't have a copy of that. And secondly, maybe this needs to be addressed later during commissioner comments, but we had an email from Nicole that said that we would get details for the budget meetings next week, and I don't believe we've received that email on the details.
Okay, I'll make sure that you have those.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's actually 7:30 on the dot. We right on time. We're going to go into our public hearing tonight. Our first case is going to be a rezoning request. We'll ask Miss Judy if you would come tonight, please.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners.
Good evening.
The first item we have before you this evening is a rezoning request. The property is located at 12791 Brownbridge Road. It's approximately 1.06 acres. It is currently zoned R2. Its future land use is in a development node, and the request is to rezone from R2 single-family residential to CG, which is general commercial, for the purpose of a retail development site. The Planning Commission did hear this petition at their February 26 meeting, and they did recommend approval with staff's conditions by a vote of 4-1. Again, this is an aerial photograph of the property's location there at Brown Bridge Road. This property is actually just east of the Walmart at the Salem and Brown Bridge intersection there. This shows that it is in the development node. This is current zoning, again, is R2, single family residential, requesting to go to CG, which is general commercial. This shows that it is in Tier 3 of the Salem overlay, which does support the type of development that is requesting to go on the property, which is retail. This also gives you a little bit of an idea of the location of the property in proximity to the Walmart Supercenter. The Walmart on Brown Bridge Road has 2 entrances. This would be the very eastern entrance prior to the red light entrance that serves also the other out parcels. So again, this property is just east of that. The applicant has 2 proposed site plans. There was a condition when the Walmart was rezoned to require interparcel connectivity. We have provided the applicant with that information and have asked them to work with Walmart in obtaining the interparcel. So they are showing 2 site plans. One site plan shows the access with Walmart having an entrance that would come from the Walmart. And then if that happened, it would be a right in and a right out onto Brown Bridge Road, which would serve the traffic traveling east and heading back out east. And if they were desiring to go west, they would go through the interparcel connectivity. The other site plan that they are proposing, should Walmart not grant the interparcel connectivity, at least in a time frame that would move this project forward, they are proposing for this, which would be the deceleration lane and then a small acceleration lane to go back whether you're traveling east or west on Brown Bridge Road. The conclusion, the proposed commercial use is consistent with the policies and intent of the Salem overlay and with approved zonings in the area. Given the land use and the zoning designations of the surrounding properties and meeting the intent of Section 460-020 of the Salem overlay, there is justification for approval. Should the board consider approval, staff does recommend the following conditions. If this petition is approved by the Board of Commissioners, it should be approved. That should be CG, general commercial, conditional, subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and the offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Board of Commissioners. 1, to the owner's agreement to abide by the following development standards. A, provide satisfactory ingress and egress to be approved by the county engineer. Improvements may include, but are not limited to, a left turn lane, a deceleration lane, and acceleration lane. B, to the extent possible, provide interparcel connectivity with adjoining properties. Any relief from interparcel connectivity must be submitted to the Director of Development Services in writing for consideration. C, overnight parking of commercial vehicles on this lot is prohibited. D, all roofs shall be neutral in color and must blend with other roofs in the area, subject to the approval of the Director of Development Services. And E, exterior of any building shall be primarily brick with tile, stone with weathered, polished, or fluted face, texture cement stucco, architectural concrete masonry with fluted split face or broke face finish, Portland cement plaster and lath systems, architectural either precast or tilt-up concrete, either fluted or with exposed aggregate finished or fiber cement board. Bricks shall substantially match the colors of those used by Publix and Walmart at the intersection of Brown Bridge and Salem Road. subject to the approval of the Director of Development Services. I would like to point out that these conditions also mirror the other conditions that were imposed upon Walmart and their 5 out parcels, as well as the Publix in the area, as this exceeds to some degree the Salem overlay requirements, which they will be required to meet. But this is to be able to create a very cohesive look at that intersection of Brown Bridge and Salem Road. And I'm willing to entertain any questions.
Thank
sir.
you. Quick question.
Yes, sir.
What type of retail is this there?
And that will be explained. There's a second petition, but it is a retail development for, actually, it is a Dollar Tree that is requesting to go there. There are 2 petitions that are required in order for this project to be able to locate there. One is the base zoning of the property must be rezoned from R2 to some type of commercial. In this case, they chose the CG, which aligns with the properties that are adjoining it. Should the rezoning move forward, then the applicant will be able to present, or I will be able to present, and y'all can consider the applicant's conditional use permit. Because this building will exceed 5,000 square feet, it needs an additional permit, but there is consideration to grant the zoning and then further consider the conditional use. They do not have to be tied together.
Commissioner Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judy, you mentioned that the vote was 4-1.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
you recall what the rationale was for the no vote?
I did not speak with the person who voted after the meeting that voted against this, but I do know that there was some concern that there was not a guarantee of interparcel connectivity, and I believe that there was lots of comments on that, and I believe that that probably led to the decision of the vote.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. In this portion, we're gonna open up our public hearing now for comments. Those that want to speak in favor of this, the applicant, and those that want to speak in favor of this, you have 10 minutes to do so. Please come at this time and state your name and your address for the record, please. You may come at this time. Those who want to speak in favor of this. You have 10 minutes to do so. Anyone want to speak in favor of this? Thank you, sir. Please state your name, your address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Doug Burr, and I'm from Virginia Beach. I'm the developer that's building the Dollar Tree. We have made contact and trying to work through the Walmart interconnectivity. It can be a bit difficult sometimes to sort through, but we are working on that as best as we can.
Can you speak in the microphone, please?
Sorry?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
We just want to give you opportunity to speak in favor of it.
I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Yeah. Give me the phone. Give me the phone. Anyone else want to speak in favor? Anyone else want to speak in favor? That portion of our public hearing is closed. Now we also allow 10 minutes for those who want to speak against this tonight, opposing. If you want to oppose this tonight, you may come at this time. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. You may come at this time. Anybody want to oppose this? You may come at this time. Anybody want to oppose? That portion of our public hearing is also closed. Commissioner, it's in District 2, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To make, I'm sorry.
Oh, you fine.
I was thinking about something else. I need to make like to make a motion that we approve. Is it REZ 18-000008 for the location of 12791 Brown Bridge Road in District 2?
With conditions.
With conditions. That's right.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson, Commissioner Henderson, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then it's just more for information purposes, and I guess this goes to Lloyd, who background is planning. I noticed that in most stores here in Covington, that part of the problem that I have is in order to go to the next business, I had to get up to get in 278. And so, I was thinking that but being able to connect the businesses together, it would seem to be easier for the consumer to just to go down a little street and be at the next business. And I just wonder why you think the planning thought about it?
Interconnectivity is something that we like to try to do now. There are some cases where you have where there's difficulty with the individual property owner unless there's a condition that's put on. For instance, when the Walmart was established, if there is a condition, I don't know whether there is or not, if there is a condition of the zoning that required that property provide interparcel access to adjacent parcels, then you would be able to make that connection. There would not be a problem with being able to make that connection. Sometimes that's not placed as a condition. So when the adjacent parcel develops, it is generally, it would be up to the developer of that adjacent parcel to try to negotiate a deal, if you will, with Walmart or whoever the property owner is. And Judy may know whether or not the interparcel access condition was placed on the Walmart zoning or not. I don't know. You may be able to shed some light on that.
There was, in fact, a condition placed on Walmart in regards to providing interparcel connectivity. The condition seems to indicate more connectivity with the parcels to the south of the project. However, it was written broad enough at the time. I think this rezoning was done in 2006. It was written broad enough. I'm trying to find it right quick. Oh, here we go. It says provide interparcel access and with future commercial development on adjacent parcels at the time of development. Should the adjoining property immediately to the south of the subject property be developed commercially, at the time of such development, Walmart shall grant a reciprocal access easement to such adjoining property at a location which extends the alignment of the proposed internal 3-lane road depicted on the approved site plan generally southward to the Walmart property line. Should the owner of the adjoining property immediately to the south construct or cause to be constructed an interparcel roadway connection to the Walmart property line, Walmart shall construct or pay the cost of constructing the extension of the new interparcel roadway to the Walmart property. And again, if you will look at the Walmart when it was developed, they did a stub out when you enter off of Salem Road at the red light there. They did a stub out that would potentially connect them with the property to the south. The condition does not explicitly talk about the property to the east. The property to the east was zoned residential at the time many years ago. It wasn't in the Salem overlay. So we have provided the applicant a letter from Development Services along with these conditions so they could provide Walmart in an attempt to obtain the interparcel connectivity to the property there to the east as well.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Commissioner Schultz.
Thank you, Judy. Don't go anywhere. I'm sorry I didn't ask this
That's
before. So I'm looking at the orientation of the building, and I'm also looking at the orientation of the Salem overlay requirements. So the building, when you come in the property, is going to come. I was just under the impression that the orientation with the Salem overlay, we were trying to get as fewer rows of parking in the front in front of the buildings as possible and have more of that parking to the side, to the back.
To the,
And it looks like we kind of, we still have it visible to the front, to the road.
the property that the applicant has actually, or is acquiring, is this small 1.6 acre tract. It does meet the Salem overlay. It did not bring the building up to the front where you would have traffic walking in straight off of the sidewalk into the building, but there is no more than the restricted 2 rows of parking in front of the building. So although it does appear, at least for this site, that all of the parking is still very visible, in order for them to be able to place their stormwater detention, which we would certainly not want in front of the property, and the fact that the property is just 1.06 acres, it does limit the site to provide more parking to the rear. But does it meet the restrictions and requirements of the overlay? The overall site plan does meet that, as well as prior to the issuance of any type of land disturbance or building permit, we would assure that it meets the all of the requirements of the overlay.
And so, since this is just a portion of that larger tract, you feel that the condition B addresses interconnectivity to any parcels that might be sold on the larger tract?
Yes, ma'am. If you will look actually where the applicant is proposing the driveway will actually border both properties, which will allow it to split off and provide that interparcel connectivity for any type of development that may develop. And I believe this is a 12-acre tract right here, but it would allow, and at that time as well, currently we're proposing the traffic measures of D-cell, A-cell, possible left turn based on the number of trips. Once the property that adjoins this develops, it will go back through that same scenario. So in fact, we may have an extended lane that would give more of a left turn into the property itself. And should they go with the interparcel connectivity, and there's the right in and the right out, that may be readdressed as well once the property to the east and to the south of this has an actual use. Then we may have to change this, and they may have to put in other traffic calming measures.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
more discussion? Thank you, commissioners. All in favor? It passed 5-0. Thank you. Next, number 16.
Yes, sir. The next request before you this evening is the conditional use permit for the property. This is CUP 18-000004. The reason that this property is coming back in front of you is that the Salem overlay restricts any type of structure that wants to be used for retail that is greater than 5,000 square feet is required to come before this board as a conditional use permit. And this project is proposed to be right at 1,000 square feet. And since the petition prior passed and it now has a CG zoning designation, you can consider this petition. Should the rezoning not pass, we would not have been able to go through the conditional use. I would also like to point out that at the February 26th meeting, the planning staff did again recommend approval, and it was at a vote to 4-1. And I would again believe that same rule would apply, the concern over the interparcel connectivity. This shows again the subject property. This shows that it's in Tier 3 of the Salem overlay. Retail development, commercial development is certainly encouraged in Tier 3 of the Salem overlay. Again, the 2 site plans, the applicant has also provided us with a rendering of the building, and for all intents and purposes, this does meet or exceed the particular requirements of the Salem overlay. We will work with them to make sure that should this petition be approved, that we achieve the same type of brick color and, in other words, the same palette that we have there at the intersection of Salem and Brown Bridge Road. This petition also, we're requesting that should the board approve this petition, we have separate conditions that would be respondent to the conditional use. So again, should this applicant move forward and develop, these would be respondent to the conditional use, but should this applicant not move forward and develop and the conditional use not apply, we also have other conditions that were respondent just to the rezoning on the property. So for this one, if this petition is approved by the Board of Commissioners, it should be approved for a conditional use permit for a retail establishment greater than 5,000 square feet in the Salem Overlay Tier 3, subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Board of Commissioners. 1, to the owner's agreement to abide by the following development standards and regulations. 1, the primary structure shall be no larger than 10,000 square feet. 2, abide by all conditions of zoning of REZ 18-000008. 3, prior to the issuance of any required permits, the owner shall obtain a plat showing the new lot configuration. 4, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant will submit architectural elevations of all 4 sides of the proposed buildings indicating exterior treatments for approval by the Director of Development Services. Structure shall meet all requirements of the Salem Overlay. 5, all activities for the retail establishment shall be carried on entirely within the enclosed building. 6, no outside storage allowed on the property and no merchandise allowed to be displayed outside of the building. 7, project, including site plan and building structures, must meet all the requirements of the Salem Overlay District. No relief may be granted unless petitioned to the Board of Commissioners as a modification to these conditions of zoning. And I would like to just put a little caveat in on that one. As you all are aware, we do have the ability to apply for a special exception. And that goes to the Planning Commission only. And only if the applicant or any opposition was not satisfied with that, would the board hear it. In this case, because the applicant has indicated they can meet the requirements of the Salem Overlay, we added the condition in here that should they not want to meet the requirements of the overlay, it's a condition and they would have to come back in front of this board rather than go through the special exception procedures.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Schultz?
Judy or Jackie, I'm not sure who this pertains to, but the conditions that we have in our book are different from the conditions that you read up here.
I see page 6.
Specifically 4
and
and 7.
correct. I'm trying to see what the meat of the change was between what we are saying here. And again, I apologize. I'm not sure why there is a change. I should have reviewed my PowerPoint before I got in front of the meeting.
Are the ones you have in your hand correct?
The ones I have in my hand are the ones that you would have been given in your packet. The conditions that were placed up here on this PowerPoint slide are not the same as these read.
Which one you want to?
Which it specifically was the one requiring it to come back in front of the Board of Commissioners versus just it's omitted on the ones that was in your packet. So that would be number 8. Yes, ma'am. Project, including site plan and building structures, must meet all the requirements of the Salem Overlay District. No relief may be granted unless petitioned to the Board of Commissioners as a modification to these conditions of zoning. And number 4 that you have there in your packet, that's redundant. Plans and plats submitted must meet the requirements of the ordinance regulations and be approved by the Department of Development Services. That goes without saying. That is a requirement anyway. So that may be why you're not seeing that particular condition. And again, I apologize. I don't like to get in front of the meeting and it be confusing, but the condition number 4 that is in your packet is redundant. They must meet this. It does not need to be a condition because it's a requirement anyway. Number 4, yes, ma'am. Number 4 would, you may keep it as a condition, but again, it is not a necessary condition because it's a requirement anyway for construction. I apologize. After the hearing, if y'all would like for me to restate the conditions, I would be more than happy prior to going into vote.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
make sure no more questions, right, Commissioner? All right, thank you. At this time, we're going to open it up for our another portion of our public hearing where we allow the applicant and those that want to speak in favor of this. You may come at this time. Please state your name and your address for the record, please. Those that want to speak in favor, you may come at this time. Those that want to speak in favor, you may come at this time. Thank you. That portion is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that want to oppose this. You also may come at this time. You got 10 minutes to do so. If you would, please state your name and your address for the record, please. Those that would like to oppose this. Thank you. That portion is closed. Ms. Judah, would you come back so we can get that in the form of a motion, please?
Should the board recommend approval, staff's conditions would read as follows. 1, the primary structure shall be no larger than 10,000 square feet. 2, abide by all conditions of zoning of REZ 18-000008. 3, prior to the issuance of any required permits, the owner shall obtain a minor plat showing the new lot configuration. 4, prior to this would be striking number 4 on your conditions and making number 4 prior to the issuance of a building permit. The applicant will submit architectural elevations of all 4 sides of the proposed buildings indicating exterior treatments for approval by the Director of Development Services. Structure shall meet all the requirements of the Salem Overlay. 5, all activities for the retail establishment shall be carried on entirely within the enclosed building. 6, no outside storage allowed on the property and no merchandise allowed to be displayed outside of the building. And 7, project, including site plan and building structures, must meet all the requirements of the Salem Overlay District. No relief may be granted unless petitioned to the Board of Commissioners as a modification to these conditions of zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Seek a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditions stated by Ms. Judy Johnson in regards to the conditional use permit case number CUP 18-000004.
Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any more discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next, number 17, the rezoning case.
The final request before you this evening is rezoning REZ 19-000001. This property is located at 188 Dixie Road. The parcel size is 13.23 acres. Map and parcel number 113-205. The existing land use property, the existing land use map is rural residential. The existing zoning is A for agriculture. The proposed zoning is AR, agricultural residential. This did not require any amendment to the future land use map, as the future land use map does support the request to go to a zoning of AR, agricultural residential. The watershed is the Alcovey River and the Bear Creek watershed. This is in Commissioner District Number 1. The petitioner is Mr. Robert Jones. The owner is Victor Harwell. This did go before the Planning Commission at their February 26, 2019 meeting, and they did recommend approval with staff's conditions at a vote of 5-0. Again, this is the location of the property right here. The applicant is proposing to divide this property into 2 tracts. One would be a 7+ acre tract, and the other request is for a 5.94 acre tract. The property is subject to it, while it is not a part of the, I think it's Melody Ridge subdivision, it is subject to the covenants of the Melody Ridge subdivision. However, I would like to remind this board that we do not enforce covenants. Those are private agreements. We only can enforce conditions of zoning. One of the covenants on the property was that the parcel could be, no parcel could be any smaller than a 5 acre tract. So staff has incorporated that as a condition which can be enforced. So should this property be approved to rezone and it's subdivide, staff is recommending the following conditions. If this petition is approved by the Board of Commissioners, it should be approved AR, agricultural residential, conditional subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Board of Commissioners. 1, to the owner's agreement to abide by the following. A minor plat of the newly created parcels must be recorded and provided to Development Services. B, the 2 new created parcels of 7.29 acres and 5.94 acres may not be subdivided into any parcel less than 5 acres. And C, any required permits must be obtained from the Department of Development Services before any construction or development on the property. And I do believe that the applicant is here this evening.
Thank you. Commissioner, any questions? Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Judy. Hey, let me ask you a question. So the property in question is or is not subject to the covenants of the Melody Ridge subdivision?
While it is not one of the lots in the Melody Ridge subdivision, it is subject to the covenants of the Melody Ridge subdivision, and that is a private agreement between the Melody Ridge Homeowners Association and this parcel. One of the restrictions on the property, or on the properties that, and I'm not sure how many are affected other than this one, is that it could not subdivide less than 5 acres. Our AR zoning in a protected watershed would potentially allow a lot to go down to 2 acres. So we added a condition, and the applicant and property owner are agreeable to restrict that this property the 13.23 acres would only be able to subdivide twice, and neither of the parcels would be able to be less than the 5 acres.
So, I'm trying to understand, and I should have asked this before, but I'm trying to understand how a parcel is subject to covenants and it's not within that subdivision.
My understanding is when the original developer, and potentially he owned all the land, I don't have the research on that, but when the specific developer went to create Melody Ridge and decided to put these protected covenants, and this particular developer did this to a lot of his properties to encourage the landowners to take more control of what goes on around them. So they put some restricted covenants on it. And I know this parcel is subject to those. I'm not sure if any of the other adjoining parcels are subject as well, but that did come up in our research on the property. And it also came up at the Planning Commission meeting itself. So that is a private agreement that was entered into on this property. The covenants will run with the land, and the owner does have to abide by the covenants. However, those are not conditions of zoning, but we did put the one condition that we would have some say over, as far as if there was no condition on here and the property was AR, potentially someone could come back in the future and request that it go down to a 2 acre lot rather than the 5 acre lot.
Okay, so the Davis property is probably to the north of the subject property, correct?
I believe so. I'm not certain. I believe it may be this, one of these here.
So
Yes,
we
sir.
don't know today, we don't know if that property is subject to these same covenants.
I do not know. I did not research that. No,
I
sir.
mean, could we find that out if we had
Yes,
to?
sir. Yes, sir. We could.
Okay.
Hey, we're in session. We can't do that.
Well, let me ask you something else. So Melody Ridge is zoned AR,
Correct.
and before it was A.
I'm not. Again, I did not do the research to see, in fact, if it
That's
was.
a safe assumption, though. Probably.
That is a safe assumption, because a lot of the property around here, such as this large tract here, is all zoned A agricultural.
And I'd be willing to bet Skyline was once A.
Skyline, yes, I do believe so, because they actually are AR now, and you can see where, and I wish I had a map that went out further so we could look, but you can definitely see, and I do believe that I did see a rezoning case for this one.
Do you know, I know I'm asking a lot of questions, do you know what Melody Ridge, the smallest lot of Melody Ridge is?
I am not certain what the smallest lot size is in Melody Ridge. I'm not sure if the Melody Ridge was actually built out before 2003. In 2003 is when the Board of Commissioners adopted the protected watersheds, which restricted certain watersheds to the 2 acre minimum. Just by relative size, if this is a 12 acre tract, and even if you divided that into about 6 acres, it certainly looks larger in size than most of the lots within Melody Ridge subdivision, but honestly, I'm not sure what the smallest lot would be in there.
Thank
Anyone else, Commissioner? Thank you. This opportunity, we allowed the applicant and those that want to speak in favor to come up. You got 10 minutes to do so. You can come up and have the opportunity to speak now. Please state your name and address for the record, please. You may come at this time.
I'm Robert E. Jones. I'm the one of the co-applicants here. Mr. Victor Horrible is in Colorado, enjoying his new home. And my wife and I live currently at 8268 Fairway Drive here in Covington. And Covington, what do we call it now? Covington something. Anyway, huh? Covington Place, yeah. It was something else. We have bought the house in 7.23 acres from Mr. Harble. We had planned to have that as our retirement home. We did not need 13 acres to cut, so I asked Mr. Harble if he would split it out. And so I speak in favor of our project. We feel like that we're within the letter of the so-called Melody Farm covenants, and felt we were in line with the AR requirements of the county.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor? Opportunity to do so now if you want to speak in favor. Opportunity to do so now. That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that want to oppose this. You also have 10 minutes to do so. You may come at this time. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. Those that want to oppose this, you may come at this time. Please state your name, your address for the record, please.
My name is Terry Mobley, and my address is 320 Dixie Road. And I actually own the property just south of there, so the big parcel that's south of there. I own that, and actually then the piece south of there too. Back actually 30 years ago, my parents actually bought that property, and it was actually, they were the first landowners in that area. All of that at that time was subject to the same covenants, which we are the 5 acre minimums. Walt Davis's property was also subject to the 5 acre minimums, as well as a piece on the corner, even though it's actually not part of Melody subdivision, it was part of the covenants. And so all of that in that area that was originally, I think it was originally Melody Farm, was all, when it was divided, was all part of the covenants. And even though I'm not crazy about that being divided right there, I do see that it's not different than other parcels in that area. I think we're all very concerned about what's going to happen to the Walt Davis piece on the corner. He has like 80 acres at stake versus 5 acres. We all bought property in that area, my parents, myself, because we like the farm, we like agriculture, we like Dixie Road, I have horses, I have cows. We like that area out there for that reason, and we would like to keep it that way. You know, this is a very small parcel and probably doesn't make that big of a difference. One more car also in that area, but that actually is a very dangerous curve right there on Dixie Road. If we bring a lot more houses into that area, Dixie Road is already very congested, tractor trailers, more cars in that area is not what we want. It's cows, it's horses, it's residential, or not residential, it's agriculture, and we do like it that way. Like I said, we bought land out there because of that, and we would like it to stay that way. This house is not, that big a difference, but the Walt Davis land on the corner, that's a big 80 acre parcel, and we would like it to stay agriculture. And so I'm not speaking opposed to that. I guess I was just trying to clarify the covenants. My parents were the original owners. They were the original landowners in this area. I now live in their house. I have 70 acres right next to this. I adjoin this area. Not crazy about it, but not necessarily opposed to it. But it does kind of set the trend, though, for this area. We have been very protective, I think, as y'all have been, of this area and how it grows up. And we would like to keep it, agriculture. We would like to keep it scenic. I've seen actually Dixie Road written up in the paper because it is a scenic bypass. We would like to keep it that way. And this is all part of that. So I know I'm not really speaking, like I said, against that being subdivided, but, I would like it not to start a trend, though, for this area. We already have enough congestion, and we like the large acreage that we have, and we would like it to stay that way. Thank you.
Anyone want to speak opposing this? We have, you may come at this time now. Anyone want to speak opposing this? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. Commissioner Edwards.
Mr. Chairman, if I may make a couple comments before we make the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern is now, the Davis property and that property going back toward Highway 278. And what this could possibly do. I believe you when you say that's part of those covenants and that's a 5-acre minimum. But I want to be certain of that, Judy. And for that reason, let me say something else too. I don't want to take any action. I don't want to encourage any action by this board tonight, by a motion that would further encourage the wrong signal, that would send the wrong signal in District 1. And my constituents in District 1 is very clear that their rural living is very important to them. So I don't think this would, but I want to be certain. For that reason, I'm going to ask I'm going to make a substitute motion that we table this issue for 2 weeks until I can get some more clarity on this particular issue in terms of the surrounding property. I'll apologize to our applicant, Mr. Jones, for that. I know that doesn't make you happy, Mr. Bob, but I'm gonna have to have some more clarity. I thought I was clear, but I am not. For that reason, I'm gonna substitute motion to table this until the next meeting.
There's no motion on the floor. But I think there comes some more advertisement. Ms. Judy, is that correct?
We have placed all legal advertisements, and should anyone have had interest, they need to be at this meeting this evening. So as long as we are announcing when it will be heard again, we are covered for the legality. We're not tabling it indefinitely. We're asking it simply to go to what I would believe is the April 2nd meeting. So if we're giving it a definite date, we would not have to re-advertise.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You want to make that in form of a motion, sir?
So let me ask our legal. So do I have to make the original motion and then
Table.
Okay. Just go ahead and
No, sir.
make the substitute motion?
You got it. It's a
I would like to
motion
propose a substitute motion.
That's not a motion. It's not a motion on the floor.
Okay, I'd
So,
like to make a motion
There you go.
that we table rezoning case number REZ 19-000001 until the April 2nd meeting.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Judy, is there any way we could get a little bit of history, about the minimum acreage? I mean, I think at some point we talked about it was about 5 acres, and then you're going to subdivide it and get a little history of what it may look like.
Yes, sir. I would be happy to provide y'all a very full, based on what the restrictions of the covenants would say, as well as what the zoning ordinance would allow. I'll be happy to provide that to y'all as an update. Yes, sir.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Pass 5-0 table, please, to April 2nd. Thank you. That deals with our portion of our public hearing tonight. I seek a motion that we approve our consent agenda tonight.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Schultz.
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the chairman's privilege to remove item G.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Edwards. All in favor? Thank you. Passes 5-0. I'm sorry. Next is item number 10 on the agenda. Approve educational broadband service long term. Mr. Kerr.
Pardon me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you all know, several months ago, we started on this project and looking to see how we could improve the possibilities for improving internet service to the rural and underserved areas of the county. And so what you have before you tonight is an agreement between the county and Paladin Communications for the lease of our broadband that we own for a portion of it. A portion of that will be reserved for our use for emergency communications and such. This is a long-term lease. It is a 30-year lease. The basic tenets of the lease will allow us to be compensated at the rate of $7.50 per month per subscriber, with the ability to review that fee every 5 years. And it would be any increase or decrease in that fee would be tied to the Consumer Price Index. So the County Attorney Sam Van Valkenburg has been working on this, and your document before you has passed legal muster, and the Paladin representatives are in agreement, and they are here tonight. Mr. Fortman is here. Also here is Mr. Nolan, Jody Nolan, with our EMA, Emergency Management Agency, and he is the one who actually brought to light the fact that we did own this broadband and this spectrum of broadband that could be used for this purpose. So, and of course, this is something that Commissioner Edwards has had a very sincere interest in as well.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions? I'll seek a motion, please. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is with pleasure I make the motion to approve educational broadband service long-term de facto transfer lease agreement, leasing the county's educational wireless bandwidth for rural broadband purposes to the company of Paladin Wireless.
Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Edwards.
I'll be brief. I can't tell you, and I'll have some more commissioner comments later. I can't tell you how much, obviously, I support this and what it's gonna do for our county, and I cannot say that in a more sincere manner. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Next is item number 11. Sheriff Office approval to purchase 12 vehicles. Mr. Kerr, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to approve 10 Dodge Chargers, a Tahoe, and a Ford F-150 pickup, all equipped with emergency equipment, and the funding for this is from the 2017 SPLOST funds. I'm sorry, didn't see the sheriff may want to address you as well. Excuse me.
Come on up, sir.
Thanks, Lord. Mr. Chair, and those of you that make up this board, good evening. As Mr. Kerr stated earlier, he, along with Nicole, Captain Banks, they worked tireless in pulling this together. As all of you know, I believe we asked for 1.1 for vehicles. However, we're not reaching that far as of now. As most of you know, that we have 150 plus vehicles, just to kind of give you some insight in terms of what we're up against. And I certainly hope that we, years to come, that we would move in a different directions, and perhaps it wouldn't be so impactful on all of us at this stage. Again, we have 150 plus vehicles in our fleet, and most of our vehicles that we have, I'd say 90% of our vehicles range from 2002 to 2011. It is now 2018. So that's the reason why I'm giving you some history as far as where we at. We have, just to tell you in terms of current vehicles, up-to-date vehicles, we have 6 2017 Chargers, in which 3 of those vehicles are through the grant that you approved from the Governor of Highway Safety. We also have 4 Chevrolet Impalas, which is 2015, and we have 4 2015 Ford trucks. So we're currently only asking for these vehicles here to somewhat remove some of the 2002s away from our fleet. We have discussed and we're in conversation in terms of lease, and Lloyd is familiar with that, and that is something that we're hoping that we can move, but move cautiously in terms of how we approach the lease and the type of vehicles that would be suitable for law enforcement purposes. The total amount that we're requesting at this time is $478,165 for those vehicles. We're currently seeking state bids, and I think we're going to be able to use our local vendors to secure the vehicles. We're going to be, as a matter of fact, a savings by using our local vendors.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sheriff Brown. 2002 is a pretty old vehicle, especially when you have to have the reliability that you have to have. I just want to, in our strategic plan, one of the main concerns of our stakeholders in terms of public safety was making sure that we had plenty of patrols. So these 10 Chargers, they're going to replace Chargers, so they're not going to add to our fleet. They're just replacing old Chargers. Is that correct?
Well,
or
it's
old
vehicles.
Okay.
It's just going to replace those.
So it's not an addition.
It's not an additional, right? We're taking them, putting them together, putting them back on the road, and making it work. But it's just only going to be 6 vehicles that we'll be able to take some of the older ones off and put newer vehicles on the street.
So you're going to remove 6 old vehicles and put 10 new vehicles in their place? Is that what the 10 Chargers?
I don't want to handcuff myself by saying we're going to remove those vehicles. The fact that we have in our contingency plan, we have additional deputies. So with that said, we may have to keep some of those vehicles in order to have what we would call additional vehicles for our future deputies. We lose vehicles from accidents and occasionally. And with that said, we never get the opportunity to replace a vehicle, because 9 times out of 10, when we lose a 2011 vehicle, the cost to repair that vehicle, in terms, the insurance company is not worth it. So we have to sideline that vehicle and use it for parts and so forth. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you that we're going to get rid of those cars, but we're going to put the 6 on the road. And if we can remove those 2002s, most likely we will.
So I'm a little bit confused because it says in here 10, but you're saying 6. Are there?
Well, I think you mentioned the number 6, 10 cars.
Okay, so 10. It says in our board book 10 Chargers, 1 Tahoe, 1 Ford pickup, all with emergency equipment.
Right.
So that's
whatever stated in your
That's
profile.
Okay.
That's what we are going to do. And again, those vehicles that we can set aside, we will. Those vehicles that we need to keep, because each day, again, we're adding deputies on, and we're down to just a handful of cars as far as spare cars now, because of the number of cars we've lost over the years, for the mere fact of from accidents to unforeseen reasons. So the fact that we have 2002s to 2011, that tell you that we have an aging fleet, but yet and still we have not replenished cars over the years.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Henderson, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chef Brown, how many Crown Vic do we still have? You got
That's a good question. I do know that in 2011, I think we purchased somewhere around 30 in 2011. Now the 2002s up to 2011, I can't really tell you exactly how many we have, but I do know that we purchased 30, and we lost some of those along the way due to accidents, and we still have those 2002s upward.
correct. Reason why I asked you that question is because I still see a lot of sheriff deputies riding in Crown Vics. And as I, I'm somebody around and said, well, can I see a Crown Vic, the sheriff riding in, or the other agencies that are local? And it seems to me, and it may just be me, that our fleets, our fleet, our officers, we seem to be more old vehicles than we do have some who are kind of new. And as we talked about a little bit, when we talked about our sheriff deputies and our first responders, we talked about that part of the recruitment tool in getting some younger officers, the ones who are seeking employment with the sheriff office, which we know is very few. And I said few to none. And part of that, is they look at the young people, look at the cars. What kind of car am I driving? What kind of equipment do I have? And that's a part of the recruitment too. That's part of it. But you hire a younger deputy, a young man, and you go and you put him on a old antique car.
Yes.
And I think that if we're gonna be looking towards Newton One, we got to make sure that our officers, our first responders, have the equipment and the pay that demands to be of that Newton One. In other words, we be the same starting point as the city of Covington, same starting point as Rockdale, same starting point as the officers that are recruitment as people around this area and maybe a little beyond. And so it's easy to talk, and I'm gonna say this and then close it. We can talk about stuff. Talk is just talk. Action speak louder than words.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. And I think I can go on and mention it to Commissioner Cowan. I recall back when I started, and I'm sure Commissioner Cowan can likewise recall when he started. Yeah, we felt good when we was able to get into a new car versus an old car. When that's 4 or 5 years old, someone is worn out. Yeah, when I was a recruit, that was the joy of my life, getting into a new car, driving it. And I'm sure the recruits today feel the same way.
Thank you, sir. I need a motion. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So moved as stated by the sheriff.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson, second by Commissioner Mason. Any more discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is discussion and consideration of payment connection with Flat Shoals Covington Bypass Project. Mr. Kerr, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have before here before you in this issue is the final amount of money that will be paid to a former tenant of a house that had to be removed and was part of the right-of-way acquisition for the Flat Shoals and Bypass Road project. Because this is a federal project, we were required to pay, I believe it was 12 months of relocation expenses to this individual, and this is the final payment of $5,538. And that will clear this up. Now, this money too is, I'm sorry, this money will be reimbursed to us from GDOT.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions? I seek a motion. Commissioner Cowan.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the final relocation assistance benefit to Mr. Wesley Hughes in the amount of $5,538 in accordance with federal uniform relocation assistance and real property acquisition policies.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Cowan and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? Any discussion, I'm sorry. All in favor? Passes 5-0, thank you. Next is discussion consideration of resolution R 031919B regarding employee handbook. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recently, we've discovered that this perfect attendance policy had several errors in the text, and also that it would be very difficult to implement as it's currently worded. So what we'd like to do currently would be to remove it. We've looked at some other models that would provide a better policy for us. So at this time, we would simply just like to remove it from the policy handbook.
Completely?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Schultz.
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution R 031919B.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Cowan. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is item number 14, discussion and consideration of City of Covington annexation proposal. Mr. Kerr, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a petition from the City of Covington to annex a piece of property located at 10111 Highway 278. The tax parcel number is CO 81-060. This parcel is actually located in the county, although it has a city tax parcel number and appears to have been taxed in the city. The property owners are requesting that it be annexed into the city to make it consistent with what the identification is and consistent with what the history of taxation of the property. And the property does meet all of the requirements for annexation. It's a 100%, one property owner, 100% process for them, and so they're able to move. They can move ahead with this. It is contiguous to existing city property, and so there would be no, there would not be an opposition to have this piece of parcel, or excuse me, this parcel annexed into the city.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any question? Commissioner Schultz.
Actually, I was going to go ahead and make the
Next
motion.
Oh.
I'd like to make the motion that the BOC not object to the city's annexation as stated by the county manager.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess this is to Lord. When it annexed into the city, that piece of property, I guess the property owner then he or she has to pay two taxes, one to the city and one to the county.
That's correct, but I believe that they've already actually been paying the tax in the city. So, and this is part of a process too, that we are currently working on parcels that have a similar situation as this one, where we have parcels that are actually in the city that are not being, where city taxes are not being collected because they're being shown as being part of the county. And this is part of a continuing effort to make sure that our borders are cleaned up and that we have the correct information on our mapping.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is number 18, street lights. I think that's resolution R 031919C. Is this housekeeping? Okay. Street lights, Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a streetlight petition for the Lincoln Estates subdivision. And this has been through the application process at the Development Services offices, and they've completed all of the pardon me, requisite applications and paperwork. This also has been reviewed by Snapping Shoals, and they are ready for a contract to be signed on this. This would allow the lights to be placed in the subdivision, and the individual property owners would then be assessed a fee, and the county would be reimbursed that fee for paying the lighting.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I seek a motion. Lincoln, 2. Yes, 2. That's you, brother. Highway 81. Need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the streetlights resolution R031919C for Lincoln Estates subdivision.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? All in favor? Pass 5-0. Thank you. Next is item number 18A. Rosedown Brookside Subdivision, Phase 2. Mr. Kerr.
Pardon me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This again is a streetlight petition. All of the property owners, or the required number of property owners, were contacted and have signed the petition for the streetlights, and an agreement has been worked for placement of those lights with Snapping Shoals, and again with the same process that is in the other agreement for the collection of the fees to pay for the streetlights.
Thank you. I don't know which district this in, but I'm gonna ask Commissioner Mason, since he did such a good job, if he would do it again. I'm not sure which district. Yeah, but it's okay. You can go ahead.
I believe that this is
Mr. Chair, we can make a motion to approve resolution R031919D for Rosedown at Brookside subdivision, Phase 2.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 4-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number 19, which is citizen comments. We allow 3 minutes to the citizens to come up and talk about any topic you would like. Please, you may come at this time. Please, sir, state your name. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. You may come at this time. Yeah, he did good.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
All right. My name is Gene Wills, 125 Homestead Way, Covington, Georgia. I went to the Capitol to listen to the senators debate or talk about Senate Bill 77. And to my surprise, they mentioned a lot of things I heard here by citizens, comparing civil rights to the Confederacy, comparing hate to integration and the sharing of power. We also have other concerns. They have the abortion bill coming up, the heartbeat bill 6 weeks. Of course, the Confederate statue. We have voter issues in this state. It appears to me that Georgia is really trying to be the icon of racism for America. We're gonna knock Mississippi out the park. And a lot of us don't say anything about it. We just complicit. Let it happen. Don't stand up for the citizens. Don't stand up to help us advance. We talk about prosperity. And I thought about a song by Bob Marley, "My belly's full, but I'm hungry. A hungry man is an angry man." And what that means to me is that we can have the prosperity, the jobs, but there's a wound under all that. And the more things we remove, the other problems we have, we get right back down the race. We get right back to the Confederacy. We get right back to the wrong that has been done to a people and the celebration of it in our face. That's a racist act. That statute is a racist act. It stands for death, rape, murder, all those things I've said in the past. 340,000 votes was purged, and a lot, I don't have specific numbers, but I know more Democrats, towards 75% were purged here, 47% Black. We have some problems that there's going to be need addressed. I mean, more we move on, people are going to start seeing the other things. And we are just, we have had enough. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, someone next. Anyone else?
Thomas Buckner, 650 Fleeted Drive. You know, I believe, why don't they call the American flag racist? Didn't George Washington have slaves? One of y'all's heroes, Sherman, he sure didn't treat the blacks with a kid glove. He was rough on going from Atlanta to Savannah. Any of y'all ever read the book Sherman's March to the Sea and see what he done to the blacks? And he was supposed to be liberating them. He liberated a few hundreds.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
David Haymore, 9136 Plantation Trace, Covington, Georgia. And I don't really want to take up the whole 3 minutes. I just wanted to mention something, and I have copies of something if anybody wants any of these copies. If not, that's fine too. But I came across an article the other day in Georgia Encyclopedia that's been updated in October of 2018. One of the earliest Confederate monument memorial services was held in April 1866 in Columbus, Georgia, marking the beginning of a national movement to honor the war's dead, both Confederate and Union. Then I found this article from Raleigh, North Carolina by a man named Rob Christensen, which supports the fact that I found out that all these statues on both sides were mainly built between the 1880s and the 1920s, okay, on both sides. And they all say the same thing. They all say dedicated to the veterans that died in that local community, that respective community, North and South, okay? One thing I just want to mention is that in 1890, that was the 25th anniversary of the end of the war. 1915 was the 50th anniversary of the end of the war. And if you think about it, in that time period, veterans were dying, Union veterans and Confederate veterans, hundreds and thousands a day, much like the World War II veterans we have today. I think we have 5 years left and they're all going to be gone. Okay, but what I've done, I've started my own research here. And I've started with every state in the Union. and I've looked at their databases. And I just got through with Maine. I've got 125 cities in Maine and towns. Just about every statue was built from the 1880s to the 1920s. Then you had another spurt in the 1930s when you had the 75th anniversary. And we also had that in Georgia. And then I've seen another spurt in the 1960s, the centennial, okay? And so I have copies of Maine. I'm already on Ohio now, and I've got about 150 cities in Ohio, and I'm just in the letter M as far as counties in alphabetical order. It's the same thing. And they all say the same thing. And last thing I want to say is there are also a few statues that I've found in Ohio and Maine, and I haven't even gotten to the other states yet, that commemorate the Underground Railroad, that commemorate, one is a statue of monument for 5 black people that participated in John Brown's raid. And where I'm going with this is that I've come up here before, and I'm saying we need to build something. If the statues were all put here at the same time, it's hard to argue they were put here in different regions of the country for 2 totally different causes. They all say the same thing. Yes, they were put here during the height of Jim Crow. They also built up north at the height of Jim Crow. Okay? And so basically, I'm willing to serve on a committee and maybe head a committee to research maybe building something on the square. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Frederick Johnson. I live at 1036 Highway 162, Covington, 30016. Amen. I rise to bring to your attention, commissioners, been hearing some rumors about a park going to be put in District 5, District 2. I just want to, don't make up your mind where you're going to put it at. Give the citizen a chance to decide on where we want it at, okay? I know the last meeting rezoned that property there where the landfill was going to try to acquire. And we don't want no park there now. I talked to Mr. Cowan last week. I bet would have been gave him a site plan and everything, a plat, and asked if any way possible that we could, probably use that property on 162, the Grace House. This would help us. This would help the county to relocate Moat Road just a little bit, and not so it won't be right in front of Good Hope Church. We still have a lot of accidents right there in that area there. In fact, we had one last Sunday morning on the way to church. Somebody had passed somebody right in front of the church and hit my sister-in-law coming out of Moat Road. It wasn't too much damage done, but yet and still, I'm still having cars running off that bank in my yard. Since I've been there, I probably had 20, 25 wrecks in my yard, coming off that bank there. In fact, I had one, I think it was in January there. And but do consider that property for that purpose. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Johnson mentioned something about it. Back some time ago, 2 years ago, when we lost our deputy, in that same curve, there was a resolution put on the table at that time to rename the road, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Johnson. Also, to do something about the curve. Do we know where we are with that?
Yes, sir. There's a process to go to it. It was just, I don't think the Board of Commissioners can just pass a resolution. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kerr. I think we have to, get permission from, the residents out there, as far as changing their street addresses. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I think we would need to make sure that everybody who's on there is aware that the road name may be changed and at least get their input. I'm going to make an assumption because I know a lot of the folks that live out there, I think were related to
Yeah.
Deputy White.
Yeah.
But I think we would need to do that in case that there are some people, because of the fact that, you know, most people's bank accounts and their billing and everything. So we would need to make sure that we get some agreement from those folks that live out there too.
Okay.
And I believe it would take a board action in order to change the name of the road. We would need to make sure that we would we'd have to notify EMA and the mapping people and everything else on that. But I think the key to it is making sure that everyone is in agreement.
Everywhere, yeah. Attorney Martin, please.
Sheriff Brown, when we passed that resolution last year, I sent it to all of our local delegation members and copied the board on it. That's when Chairman Ellis was still our chairman. I know Miss Jackie helped out with that as well to make sure it got up there. And I felt pretty certain that we had posted pictures of the family with some type of indicator that the state had given him. I could absolutely find out if that's the case, but I know that there was action more than 2 years ago to try and get the road renamed for him. One was a county road that we looked at, I believe, and the other was a state. Oh, absolutely. I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's several entities that would need to be notified. But if we already have the agreement of the people who live there, then I don't know why the board would not necessarily be able to move ahead. But I'll be glad to check into it. I did not remember that. And when the sheriff, I think, had talked to the chairman about it, he brought it up to see what we needed to do the other day. And so I started to look into it.
So I'm told that when we change a portion of Brown Bridge Road to John Middleton, that we didn't contact the citizens?
I think you just changed that portion.
Okay.
It's not the name of the road, no.
Right. It's not the
no.
physical name.
Right.
Right. It's not the physical name, it's the recognition of the individual.
So Sheriff, what are you looking to do?
I'm looking for correction on the curve, however we have to move forward. I think this is something that this community has been fighting for a long time. And after the accident and the loss of the officer, I think this just brought back and just reopened old wounds from loved ones who've been killed for the mere fact of that curve. So if we need to get with our delegation is one thing. If we just need to do something in terms of recognition, that's one thing. But I would certainly hope that we would start something, the process going.
Okay. So do you want to physically change the name of that road, or do you want to do something in recognition?
Well, I'll leave it entirely up to the board to make that decision. And I leave it up to the board to make that decision. And if the board make that decision and feel that the officer's death warranted changing the road, this is the board decision. I support it.
Okay. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The few times I've been on the board and that we've done it, you simply go to your state delegation and they, I guess, get with the other members of some other members and pass it. Want to be on a memorial driveway or whatever, and then you post a sign, either I think on side of the road. Nothing changes because they did it for Forest Sawyer Senior. They did it for Mr. John Williams. And so it gives recognition to the family and the person who lived in that community. And I thought that was probably the best way, and it wouldn't affect nobody's address. You still get the mail, but you would always pay it by that, see that sign of remembrance of your loved one or the officer who passed away on that particular road. So,
And I think, thank you.
so-
And I think most importantly is the problem that all of us have been facing for years, for 40 plus years that I've been here. And I'm sure Mr. Johnson for a lifetime of the curve on the roadway. I'm sure that's one of the most important points.
So Sheriff, let me take an opportunity to talk with Megan about it and let her see how we can move forward with it. But I just want to put it on the record that Mr. White is my cousin, and so I don't want nobody to think that I'm, just want to put it out there. So let me get with her, and we'll see which way we need to go with this, and we'll get back with you.
Thank you.
Yes,
I just
sir.
thought it was something that needed to be mentioned.
Yes, sir.
So that we wouldn't forget it. Thank you.
Commissioner's comment, Mr. Cowan. Mr. Henderson, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Chairman. The job fair that we had a while back, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting over at Nest Heights. It was a success. It was a lot of people who came over. In fact, the ones who have my Facebook page, which I kind of get on probably once or twice a week, and have been quoted sometimes for a few words that I've said on it. But it was a success. We would like to thank Cover News for coming by and all the local papers and a lot of peoples who came by and we believe who received the job. And I'm just going to close in this because I think it's going to be kind of a long night, which wasn't supposed to be. But it's easy to take a man a fish. But if you learn him how to fish, he can feed himself for a lifetime.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just need some clarification about, we were all told that we were going to have a district day for budget hearings. Is that, and we don't have that date yet, I don't believe.
I can get that. I'll get all of that for you. What we were going to have actually was 2 public meetings here in the boardroom for the public. We weren't necessarily going to do them on each individual in each individual district, but we were going to have meetings here for the public to ask questions about the budget.
Well, I guess I'm confused then because, we have the public hearings when we're later in June, but I thought these were public hearings that were going to be in March and early in the budget process.
What we were going to do was present the budget to the public, not at a public hearing, but a meeting. But we did not want to do that until after we had an opportunity to have the department heads address you all, and the constitutional officers have an opportunity to plead their case before you as well, so that we were able to narrow that budget down, clean it up if there were particular concerns that you all had, or if there were pardon me, priorities that you wanted included in the budget that were not included, and then give that information to the public and whatever input there might be from the public.
So as soon as we can settle on some dates, because I typically do a fireside chat during the budget process, and I don't want to conflict with that.
Sure.
And I don't want to burn my citizens out either.
We do have a calendar set, and I apologize, I don't have it with me tonight, and I just don't remember off the top of my head when those are going to be. But the citizen meetings, if I remember correctly, we're going to be a little further in the year. We were going to have workshops with the board members during, actually starting next week. And that schedule, I believe Nicole sent that out to you a couple of weeks ago. But I'll go back and take a look at the citizen meetings, but I believe they were going to be more towards the May timeframe, I think. I'm sorry. Okay, April 9th. I'm sorry. Commissioner Mason said they were on the 9th. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I really enjoyed our Family Fun Day this past week, and it was phenomenal. It was amazing. I'd love to just encourage even more of our citizens to come out and participate in that amazing, amazing event. You get an opportunity to connect with your fellow citizens. You get an opportunity to connect with the leaders within the community. And the whole objective is just to have a good time. And so I think sometimes we are business, and seriousness. And so I think we get an opportunity to kind of really get to know each other. And great event. Also wanted to kind of just briefly mention or kind of just talk about what Mr. Johnson talked about. I hear a lot of that, on Highway 162, Moat Road. I've heard that a lot as the new commissioner. And so I want to work in whatever capacity I can to try to figure out a way on how we can work through with, I don't know if there's a way for us to redesign that portion or to restructure that portion. I don't know what we can do, but I'm willing to work in whatever capacity that I can, Mr. Johnson, to try to address those concerns, because I have heard that there have been a lot of fatalities, and we don't want that in our community. We want to, make everybody as safe as we possibly can. And if we can figure out a way to prevent those fatalities, then I think if we come together as a community, I'm more than happy to kind of work and even help be a lead in that, because I do care about our district, and I want us to be safe, and I care about our community as well and our county. So I'm definitely willing to work to see what we can do to try to resolve that issue as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo what folks have had to say about the Family Fun Day, and thank you for putting that together for us. But I want to thank the employees. I looked around, and the county employees and their families and the organizations that help support the community were humping it. And they made that experience great for a lot of people, and I look forward to it being even bigger next year. I had to bail around 1 o'clock, but I was there for a while, and it was fun. And it's just a great event for our county, and it really epitomizes #OneNewton. It was a great event. So to pivot just a little to Paladin Wireless and the lease of our county-owned spectrum to Paladin Wireless, it's Steve, I really look forward to our relationship, your relationship, Paladin's relationship with the county, and I want to volunteer a beta test market in my neighborhood, by the way. So just kidding, but I want to point out one other person, Jody Nolan. I talked to Steve very, very early in the process, which was way less than a year ago, by the way. This moved rather quick. But I want to say something about Jody Nolan. He said and Steve didn't know Jody at the time, he said somebody had the brilliance to hang on to this county, this band of frequency. And I believe that was Jody. So I want to give a shout out to Jody Nolan too. And I think the county manager is going to let Jody be the point man with Paladin going forward, and look forward to that great relationship. And thank you very much, Jody. Much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Curry, you got anything? No? Guys, I want to also, I try to when I make a mistake, I try to admit that I made a mistake. And I did make a mistake last budget season. So this year we're going to make sure we go by the charter and make sure we stick to the charter with the budgeting process. With that being said, I seek a motion that we go in executive. We do have executive session tonight for litigation and land acquisition. No voting will be coming out of executive session tonight, but I do seek a motion that we move into executive session. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Henderson. All in favor? Executive session it is. Thank you guys for coming tonight.